let me say this. Huda's redemption arc peaked at Casa Amor when she met the new group of people that gave her a second chance. But it seems like she's back to her old ways. And the Islanders don't have anyone but themselves to blame for accepting her bad behavior for so long. But at least they're standing on business now and trying to show that they will not accept disloyalty and disrespect and selfishness, at least amongst the girls' friend group. So let's get into it all. It's your captain for creativity coming at you with the Love Island USA Season 7, Episode 24 and 25 review. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And if you're returning, thank you so much for rocking with me. We are trying to do 2 episodes fairly quickly, so let's start with the heart rate challenge. Now, the girl who raised the most people's hearts was Sierra, and the boy that also raised the most people's heart was Nick. So the couple that won that challenge was Sierra and Nick, and I think that's why they won the date, because their relationship is not giving very much right now, especially, given what we know that will be revealed at movie night. I don't see a lot of people expecting that closed off, coupling to stay closed off for long, or to stay peaceful for long, because Sierra let Iris get in her head during the heart rate challenge episode. She was acting like she was all okay with Nick and Nicolandria, being a couple and exploring their connection, during the Casa Amor arc. But then when Iris kind of broke it down to her and was like, are you really okay with your best friend and your man doing all this late in the game? Then Sierra had to be honest to herself and be like, oh yeah, it did kind of bother me. So then, she brings it up in the date again. And it's kind of a surprise to Nick, too, because I think he thought that he had moved past that, or she had moved past that. But the fact that Sierra brought it again is showing the cracks in their relationship. Who matched heart rates was Pepe and Andreina. So it surprised me that Pepe curved Andreina. So with the girls, what annoyed me the most in the challenge was that Taylor got pulled by Landria, to do the heart rate challenge on. And Landria did raise Taylor's heart rate the most, but she should have just stayed away from him. And I was also upset that the girls were encouraging her to still explore Taylor, even though they did, I think, put Elon and Brian and Zach at the top of the list. But the fact that Shelly and I think Sierra was amping her up to still explore Taylor was a bad move. It proved that these people brain is not developed yet fully, and they're just making some silly mistakes. So even though a lot of people didn't like the way they did the heart rate challenge this time by doing it by couples, again, it gave them an excuse to send Nick and Sierra on a date to, I think, make more drama before movie night. But movie night is going to be probably the best episode, by the way. But in terms of the heart rate challenge, it spawned a whole lot of drama and like a trickle-down effect. So Ace raised the least heart rates, right? I think he only raised Clark's heart rate. So Shelly was not jealous in the way that some people are saying. And even though Huda raised Ace's heart rate, it's because she was doing the most, during the challenge. But Ace definitely wants Shelly, and Shelly knows that. Shelly even said that she knows that nobody wants Ace. And at the end of the day, the beef between Ace and Shelly is definitely about control. And if you listen to Jeremiah's interview, he thinks that Ace started really getting negative with him and like making, the island experience a lot more negative right after that challenge where Jeremiah curved Yulissa and didn't let her kiss him, and Ace ended up getting taken away from Shelly by Yulissa because of what Jeremiah did. And when Jeremiah, you know, declined Yulissa's kiss, it got caught on camera, Ace saying, "Oh, I messed up." Right? So it's clear that Ace had some kind of master plan of how he wanted to play the game, but Jeremiah put a monkey wrench in that plan from that coupling where he curved Yulissa, and then Yulissa ended up taking him away from Shelly, in that very beginning challenge, right? So at the end of the day, Ace was playing a game of control. Jeremiah got in the way of whatever master plan he had. So he, snaked Jeremiah, and he had to course correct at Shelly's expense by exploring all these other connections. First, he was paired with Alyssa, and she disappeared like a thief in the night, so he ended up alone for a while. But then she was with Austin trying to explore Austin, and then he decided he was going to get his lick back, and I think trying to make Shelly jealous by, exploring Amaya, which he didn't really do, and then trying to fake explore Iris. So Shelly complained to Alondria about, what Ace was doing, and they were calling him like Dora the Explorer, kind of. And then I think Alondria called him Christopher Columbus. So now Shelly's getting her lick back by exploring Chris. So the whole Ace versus Shelly drama is not as much about jealousy as I think it's about control. And Shelly wanting to do things on her own terms since things were on Ace's terms for so long. And Ace knows that, which is why he's like, well, he doesn't want to close it off to force her hand, because he knows that he was coming across controlling. And I think either producers or somebody has to tell Ace, to loosen up, because he kissed Amaya. Even Amaya was surprised. It was like, wait, what happened to boundaries? So Ace is still course correcting from his master plan. And Shelly is standing on business with him and basically saying, well, you set the tone for things being open, so I'm just going to be open now, which is a separate thing than what Shelly, is beefing with Huda about. Shelly and Huda's beef is about the girls' code expectations that were weaponized against all the girls by Huda when she was with Jeremiah. And now that Huda doesn't have Jeremiah, she's been the biggest violator of all the rules that she set for so long. And this heart rate challenge was a straw that broke the camel's back for Shelly and a lot of the girls, because the way Shelly explained it, which I understood, was that, Huda would always tell them to stay away from Jeremiah, and then she would pat them on the back, for respecting that boundary and staying away from it. And you saw during the heart rate challenge, all the girls respected Sierra's boundary, and none of them kissed Nick. So they all stayed away from Nick. So these same rules that Huda set herself, the other girls are still following and kind of perfecting on, but Huda keeps breaking them and lying about it. So first, she lied about it with Hannah, and Pepe pieced that, and that's why Pepe still doesn't like Huda, because she lied saying that she didn't know she was going to have to kiss Pepe in the challenge when she picked him. But then she also pulled him for a chat in front of Hannah. And he complained to Hannah that he didn't like that. And he'd been complaining to the boys how he thinks Huda should have went home. And Pepe's right. If they were seeing that Huda was a snake and making everything toxic for so long, they should have just sent her home. But now they're kind of punishing her for the second chance that they gave her, which is why I also kind of see Huda's side. And I think why Chris, got closer to Huda, because it does come across as bullying on the surface level if you're just taking this, challenges isolated because Huda was just doing the challenge and she can dance off, so she beat Ace in the other dancing challenge with Megan Thee Stallion. But at the end of the day, this is a bigger issue with the girls. And Shelly explained it correctly because Huda set all these rules that the girls are still following, which you see because of how they all respected Sarah and didn't kiss Nick, at least in front of her. Alondra's a different story for all the Nicolandria fans, because they're faded. But when it comes to Shelly and Huda, the straw that broke the camel's back especially was with how she dealt with Chris. It's like back-to-back snaking, right? So they all saw how she blew up on Jeremiah and was toxic, and they wanted to get rid of her since then, but they didn't. They gave her the second chance. Then she snakes Hannah about Pepe and lies about it. Then in Casa, she was supposed to be with JD, but JD was showing he had some red pill kind of mindset when he was talking about being dominant. And Huda clocked him correctly and was like, well, go find somebody submissive, which was fine. But she should have just told Shelly up front that she was going to go after Chris full force, because the way Shelly explained it was that Huda came to her and tried to sell her bringing Chris to the house as something that would benefit Shelly. And she said that Huda told her that she's doing it partly because of Shelly, but Shelly knew that Huda was just doing it for herself, but she let it rock because, again, Shelly was going to choose Ace. So just the fact that, again, Huda was being sneaky and trying to act like, she was doing Shelly a solid when really she wanted Chris for herself, and she proved that with the pancakes thing. Like, Huda is constantly fighting about pancakes. It's like the second time. But the motive behind it is jealousy about Shelly. Huda is the one that's jealous of how Shelly was treated, because if you remember the Jeremiah situation, Ace kept making all those different breakfasts and dates for Shelly, like, pancakes and ping pong, and he was making the boys also cook breakfast for their girls, like making Taylor make breakfast for Alondria and things of that nature. So that's why Huda was fighting with Jeremiah over the pancakes, because she was like, you're not doing more, you're not doing as much as these other boys, aka she was comparing herself with what was going on with Shelly then, and she did it again because she said that Chris brought Shelly pancakes and a flower, and she was saying that Chris only brought her one pancake, whereas he brought Shelly two. So she's constantly comparing herself to Shelly. So at the end of the day, Huda is trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to, I guess, get what the girls have. But at the end of the day, she does it by snaking them, because I think it's more envy, to be more correct, because envy is when you want what someone has, but then you also don't want them to have it. That's why she's taking Chris from Shelly, or trying to, grind up on Ace. It's very clear that Huda definitely has issues with not being treated as well or having as many options as Shelly, and she's showing it by literally taking Shelly's options and complaining not once, but twice about not getting treated the same way as Shelly. So what Shelly and Huda got going on is different. And I'm more inclined to be on Shelly's side, but I think Huda's redemption arc was starting to pick up steam, but she's getting in her own way as usual. Because with the Jeremiah situation, she and Jeremiah had a chance if she didn't crash out so hard, because Jeremiah still wanted to talk to her and was thinking about, how maybe their mistake was they weren't friends first, and he was trying to kind of give her a little foothold back into, being a couple again or starting from scratch. But then she was calling them all them B words and body parts, and we all knew how that went, right? And here, she had the Casa boys who gave her a clean slate, but at the end of the day, she still violating her own girl code rules. And she knew she messed up a little bit, but she didn't want to take accountability, which is why her redemption arc peaked in Casa when it seemed like, she was starting to stand on business, especially with JD, because, again, I do like how she called him out for that toxic masculinity stuff where he's talking about how he don't like to be dominated, she like to be dominated. She was like, well, go find somebody submissive. She was standing in her feelings and being empowered as a woman. But the thing is, she has to be more honest with herself and the other women more, because this whole pity train that she was on, it worked on Chris, partly because Chris was salty with Shelly not, paying him attention, but it did not work on the girls. You saw Amaya was the only one who kind of, heard her out, but Andreina knew that it was just, some BS with her not taking accountability. Oh, Olandria even walked away, when she was, I guess, doing that scene with the eating the toast and crying. And I really hated when Huda was, again, having a pity party with Chris, talking about how if I was ugly, would that make you better? Because, again, I think desirability is one hell of a drug, especially for Huda, because in a lot of spaces, she relies on her looks to make room for her. And I think her looks have opened a lot of doors for her, but it only gets her so far, because at the end of the day, when people see her behavior, they don't want much else to do with her besides, the physical or what they can get on the surface. And even when she was talking to TJ, you could tell she was trying to use her looks. The conversation had no substance, but in her head, she's thinking there's this attraction where TJ was not getting any type of substance or vibe, so he ended it with her, and then Huda was so confused. She's like, may I ask why? Again, because she thinks she's so desirable that any man would want her, kind of thing. And she has to stop relying on her looks and try to get more in tune with herself and her strengths and her weaknesses. And I think she, like all of us, could benefit from therapy. She does not need a man as much as she needs time to really find herself, because she's just relying on her looks for a lot of things, but she's not seeing the ways that she's self-sabotaging, because these girls did give her a chance that a lot of people did not want to give her on the island, and she's snaking the same girls that really were trying to be there for her, especially Amaya, because she called Amaya all kinds of B words, and Amaya, you see, is being there for her the most, and she still won't even apologize to Amaya. And again, she's trying to make herself feel like the victim, but at the end of the day, it takes two hands to clap. She knows what she's been doing to these girls. She's actively cuddled up with Chris, who had a connection with Shelly, and she knew that Chris wanted Shelly more and called him on it, talking about it's unfair that you gave Shelly flowers, but again, Chris, he's falling for it because he's tired of Shelly. So at least, since this is Love Island, not Friendship Island, Huda should just stand on business, take Chris fully, now that Chris seemed to be cool off on Shelly. And she needs to try to be less toxic in this relationship. She needs to try to focus on herself, take accountability, own the times when she's having double standards and being selfish and making things about herself. And hopefully she will have a better end to her redemption arc. But right now it looked like it peaked and is going downhill. She might be voted off the island after Taylor, because the girls are sick of her. And some of the boys like Pepe and even TJ was sick of her already too. Now, speaking of the boys, Casa also made drama between Nick and Elon. I think Nick said it best when he was like, he doesn't want to have like a de-measuring contest with Elon because Elon seems to be aware of Ciara and Nick's connection, but he's more trying to prove that he's a better man than Nick. It's almost like Ciara is the object that they're fighting over. And I don't believe that it's as much of, Nick loving Ciara so much as an ego thing, which she clocked herself during the date. Ciara asked Nick, is this more of getting closer to me because Elon is around? And I think Nick is definitely playing a game. He knows that he won't be in the house if Elon, takes Ciara's attentions. And in the heart rate challenge, both Elon and Ciara rose each other's heart rate the most. So I think Nick is more doubling down to secure his spot because he sees that Alondria is still a little stuck on Taylor. And then he saw Elon picking up Alondria and kind of sneaking in on his territory with Alondria and Ciara. So I think he's putting his foot down with Ciara since him and Ciara are having relations. And every time things go bad in their relationship and Nick's attention starts to turn, especially when it came to Andreina, and even after the Alondria thing, Ciara makes sure they have relations. So that is part of the confusion, but I definitely think that Elon, he is a little bit of a dirty macker because I did not like how he put a big crack in Zach and Amaya's foundation. Amaya and Zach had been doing fairly well up until Elon's meddling, messy self was eavesdropping on a conversation that Amaya was having with another guy. I forget which one, but basically she was saying how things with Zach had been going well, but she was the one, pulling him for chats and initiating kisses, which I did see. And so she was wondering if Zach's more here, for the vibes and the friendships and the fun of it all, as opposed to deepening his connection with her. And that was not supposed to get to Zach's ear because at the end of the day, Amaya was trying to make the person she was talking to comfortable with, deepening a connection with her because Amaya knows that her days can be numbered if she has all her eggs in one basket because, again, she's always initiating the kisses with Zach. And it was like a last-minute scramble to get Zach before she got eliminated from Casa. So instead of, just going to Amaya himself, since he overheard that there are cracks with how Amaya's perceiving Zach, Elon went and took it to Zach and told Zach how Amaya was talking about him. And then when Zach was talking to Alondria, he definitely showed that he was upset about that because he was saying if things are wrong in a relationship, he always wants to keep a united front and don't publicly, air out dirty laundry or try to shame the person. So I think Zach and Amaya are done because of Elon, and I hope Elon at least does right by Amaya, but our sister don't even know what hit her now because of Elon. So Elon versus Zach, this was grimy, but we'll see how everything else plays out. Say how you feel about it.